let's get started here. So I'm really happy to have Alyssa Ward join us today. Alyssa and I worked together at the Insight Fellows program a long time ago, where we worked with folks transitioning careers and thinking about data. And in the time between now and then, Alyssa has worked at a bunch of different places and done a bunch of cool things. The company that you're at now, Guild, also works on career up leveling, thinking about how to help people get where they want to go. And personally, you've been working on kind of helping people understand how to use AI, what works, what doesn't work, and how to get started. So we're really glad to have you here. And I'm just going to kick it to you, Alyssa, to introduce
Yeah.
yourself a little bit more and the topic. And I'll be here too. And if people have questions the whole time, feel free to throw them into the chat.
Yes, please definitely put things in the chat. I love being interactive and I love hearing about what you're thinking about as we're going along. Okay, I'm going to do a brief intro and then I have something prepared that I'm going to share you. It's slide like, but not quite. And I'm excited because I created it with AI. So I'll show you. First of all, yeah, thank you so much for having me today. I'm so excited to share with you. I'm going to talk a little bit about my journey with AI. Like I said, I'm going to share some projects I've done, and then I'll do a demo of how you could make these too. So I'll actually show you a real conversation I had with Claude to create one of these projects. First, a little bit about who I am. So Kathy mentioned it a bit. I currently work as an AI solutions engineer. I'm not an engineer. I come from a data science background. But what that means is that I basically help people in our company use and build on an internal AI platform that we're building to enable anybody in the company to be able to use and build with AI safely and reliably. I actually started this position 4 weeks ago. Like I said, prior to that, I've been working as a data scientist, and that's how I met Kathy. My background did not start in data science. I actually started in behavioral science research. I have a PhD in social psychology. I've studied how people are shaped by their cultural experiences. And the reason why I mention that is because when I think about using AI, I am always thinking about the human being first. We are not neutral entities when we're working with AI. You could think maybe you're being a neutral entity when you're working with code because you have to kind of be very logical and think step by step. But when you're working with AI, you're really able to bring in your human self. And then, how you do it can affect how you get an outcome that you want out of AI. But for the most part, you can get so much out of AI just by talking about it and talking to it and being yourself. I do want to acknowledge AI is a complicated space. So obviously it's a very powerful tool that can be used for many good things. And I'm hoping to show you a lot of that today. But I also just want to acknowledge there's a lot of consequences that we're seriously considering, whether it's its impact on job loss, the environment, or mental health. So personally, when I'm sitting down at the computer and I'm face to face with this technology, I'm constantly thinking about how do I use this without losing myself? How do I use it to actually expand what I'm capable of doing without replacing myself? So that's all just a little bit of a, prelude to all of this. Now I want to share with you what I've actually done in details. First, I do have a confession I have to make. I actually forgot about this presentation until last night. Luckily, I have a lot of materials. I
You're
just
very
hadn't put it
prepared.
all together for a talk like this. And the
That's great.
reason why I mentioned this, yeah, the reason why I mentioned this, other than to show, I mean, I'm normally very prepared. This is literally, I have this whole week off and my kids are in summer camp. So I've been very much in vacation brain. Um, but the point is, I had AI. Here. I had AI to help me. Oh, hang on. I made my camera a little bit blurry. Okay, there. It got so excited about what I was talking about, blurred. But I had AI to help me. So I want to show you a little bit about what I did and what I ended up building. And I think like what I ended up building is what I would have wanted to build. And I did it in like 36 minutes. It was pretty incredible. Okay, let me show you. So I'm going to share my screen. Let me make sure I'm sharing the right thing. There we go. So what I did is I literally just opened up Claude and I started talking to it. So what I do is I give it a little bit of context. I said, I'm giving a presentation tomorrow. Completely forgot about it. It's for this. And then I gave it the link to the Hack Your Summer organization so that it could actually look up information without me having to tell it all about it. I didn't know I was on the website. That was a pretty cool find by having the AI tell me that I was listed there. So that was really cool. And then it gave some suggestions. I don't always read everything the AI tells me. I just wanted it to like make sure I had it have the context because I already had an idea of what I wanted to do. So then I brain dumped to it all the things that I had wanted to share and I was planning on putting in this presentation. So I had previous slides from other talks. I have an illustration that I created of my journey through AI. I have different apps that I created as well as my weekly newsletter. I write in a newsletter, like Kathy was mentioning, about how to use AI. And then I literally just brain dumped to it everything I was thinking. So I was like, here's what I want to do. Here's kind of the script that I want to say. And I literally just typed out, this is literally brain to fingers of what I wanted to say. And then some of the beats that I wanted to hit.
Oh yeah,
So from
Alyssa,
here,
I'm gonna
oh
jump in and
yeah.
ask you. Yeah, did you type it like with your hands or did you use
Oh,
voice for this?
I type with my hands. I've
Yeah,
always been a typer. I type as fast as I think.
yeah, that's
I
good.
have used the voice to text features
Yeah,
before, which is really helpful. Whisper Flow I've tried.
right.
I didn't
Yeah.
want to end up paying for the pro version, but that was really cool using Whisper
Yeah, I'm
Flow.
a bad typist, and so for me, for something like this, it would be easier for me to just put my phone and just be like, okay, if especially if it was
Yeah.
last minute and be like, I just need to say a bunch of things out loud, and then someone else type them. That so for folks who are
Yeah.
here, I think that also can be another way if this much typing isn't for you.
Yeah, that's what typing for me. But yes, definitely. I know a lot of people who use Whisper Flow. The voice to text works okay too. Whisper Flow is like an AI speech to text, so it does a lot better with capturing your sentences and like cleaning up fillers. The other thing that I have done is use the actual voice feature. I think it's here with Claude, especially when I'm driving. So I used to do an improv class that was half an hour away. That was my time to get to talk to Claude. And so that was, yeah, that's been super helpful. Okay, so then I talked through with it, and basically I ended up creating this artifact. And so now I'm going to switch over to here and show you, well, my actual presentation through here. I'm going to open this up. Start here. Great. Perfect. I know where to start. Like I said, or so yeah, I draw illustrations actually. So I do hand drawn illustrations. It's really like tickles my brain to think that I'm drawing hand drawn things while also talking about AI and like how it can help me automate some of the things that I'm doing. I'm going to take a step back and I'm actually going to start in my journey on Imposter Island. So, as I mentioned, I come from this behavioral science background, social science, and then I wanted to get into data science. And data science is a technical field. I had learned how to code in my behavioral science degree, but still, it was like a leap for me to think that I could do this data science thing. Luckily, I had people like Kathy to help me out and learn skills and like help me become confident in this transition. And it was really a big pivot in my life for where I was going. I mention this because we are all now collectively going through an imposter syndrome when it comes to using AI. And it doesn't matter if you're an engineer or a marketing major or a biosciences major, because this technology is new for everybody, there's going to be elements of this where we're not going to know what we're doing. And it's going to feel like, we're going to wonder, do we belong? Are we technical enough to do this? I talk to people all the time about whether they feel like they're technical enough to do this. And I wondered it too. And it's not surprising because, of course, AI was born out of computer science and it's like the most techie of technologies. And for a long time, it was only used by engineers. And so I'll tell another story here, which I hadn't planned to tell, but um, I was exposed for a long time with AI as it looked before this generative AI, these chatbots that you can talk to. And it was through the program that Kathy mentioned, Insight, where they were actually running programs to help people transition, academics and engineers, transition to roles, data related roles, but also they had programs related to AI related roles. And at that time, AI looked like, machine learning, neural networks, vision processing was a big thing, and I worked at this company for a little while after I had gone through it as a fellow. So I was observing them from the side, and I always thought, gosh, and actually, here I have an illustration for this too. Research later plateau. I was always seeing all these things coming out of Silicon Valley, out of AI, and thinking to myself, I'd love to learn more about that. But at the time, not doing it. Like I just didn't have this identity that AI was for me. I didn't have the time to look into every nook and cranny. And so I just sort of observed it from the side. And then, of course, always wondering, like, could I actually do that? I don't know. Then, as we all know, ChatGPT came onto the scene in 2022. Oop, go back. I have a little hover spot here. And just like skyrocketed, right? Like throughout this isn't even a year. This is 3 months of when it launched to February 2023. Um, and the news was talking about it. It felt very hypey. I was a little bit like, I don't know. I want to kind of see where this goes before I try it. My husband works at LinkedIn or worked at LinkedIn at the time. He had come home from this internal conference they did where people were demonstrating how they were using AI. And he's like, Alyssa, you have to try using this. This is going to change everything. And I was like, nah, I don't know. But I did. I did eventually try it out. This is where I entered experimental planes. And the first thing I tried with AI was actually not a technical use case. So even though I was in code all day long, that's not what I was interested in. I was interested in creative tasks. So this is like, I think this is literally the first prompt I ever gave AI. Can you write a story about a physicist who trains cats to operate lasers for revenge after being fired from her job? And so it created a story. And at the time, I was like, this is amazing. Look at this detail it's put in, the names it's putting in. It even named the cat. Like it was pretty incredible. And so from here, I tested things like, can it write a poem? I come from a research background. So I said, can you write a poem about a daisy? Okay. How about a sunflower? Okay. How about a sad sunflower? And at the time, there are two things that happened. One is the responses back weren't all that different from each other. And so at the time, I thought, oh, well, okay, AI is not super creative. Now thinking back on it, I'm like, well, I didn't give it very creative prompts. So how could that have changed it? But that being said, I did test it with creativity. I thought this is pretty cool. Not enough to make me think it's going to come after artsy jobs. Um, and then the other things I asked it about were actually related to social justice. What did it think of race and ethnicity, which is what I studied at the time, and mental health? How would it respond if somebody's telling it, like, hey, I'm feeling depressed, I'm feeling anxious? And would it sort of have enough nuance to be able to navigate it? There's a lot of different ways you could answer that question, but at the time, its answers were good enough that I thought, this is pretty cool. And then I didn't touch it. I didn't touch it for years. I mean, maybe here and there, but really I didn't use it all that much. Um, if I used it at work, it was more like a glorified Google search. And after one question, hey, can you help me code this thing? Nothing after that. Then last year, something changed for me. And the way I want to show this to you is through an app that I made that analyzes my ChatGPT conversations. Where's my app? Let me go here. Here it is. So this is called AI Chat Explorer. And the way that it works is you upload in your ChatGPT conversations. The data stays in your browser. It doesn't get sent to me. I don't want your data. I don't want to take care of it. So it just stays in your browser. Mine's already loaded in. And basically what I'm going to show you here is a chart of how I used AI. So you can see here that in January 2023, this is monthly uses. I was using it maybe every other day, one conversation. This is number of conversations. And then boom, come March 2025, I exploded. I was using it almost twice a day, all the way up to 227 conversations in November 2025. And these were long conversations. What was I talking about with it? I mean, you can see here I created a little timeline of different topics, but it really started actually in the communication space. So I had become trained as an executive coach. I was interested in starting my own business. And so I was talking to it about how to create a business plan. And I set this all up in Claude Code. So I set it up so when you click on it, it'll show you the different conversations that you have. It'll give you information about what it's coming from. And then at some point here, I started really writing on Substack. So I was asking it questions about how I could make my writing better. I don't have AI write for me. I really don't like the AI generated voice. I've tried it. I've been interested in like, can I outsource this? I don't like how it does it. So I always write for myself, but I talked a lot with it about the craft of writing and how to do it. So let's see. So I made this in Cloud Code. I launched it through GitHub. And then there's on GitHub, you can actually host pages. So this is all directly through GitHub. Yeah. So the point here that I want to make is that I learned how to use AI. I'll come back to here through talking with it. And this is where I really learned like, you don't need to have technical experience to be able to build technical products with AI. And up until this point, until I did it myself, I mean, I really didn't know. I thought, do I need to know more about AI? Do I really need to pay attention to what MCPs are? Do I really need to learn more about prompt engineering? For me personally, I don't really deal with prompts. I just deal in conversations. I just talk to the AI. And so, yeah, it was really through a communications type problem that I learned how to talk to an AI. I learned how to tell when it wasn't quite right and how to push back on it and ask it questions. And then, after learning that skill of how to talk to an AI, that's when I then took it to work and I started to do technical projects with it. I work in, I used to do revenue forecasting for finance. So, when you're working with numbers and revenue, it's really important to have it be right and accurate. So, really learning how to work with an AI, deal with its hallucinations, ask it lots of questions. That's actually what that spike in my data shows is I anytime an AI would say something and it sounded wrong, I would ask it, why? Why did you say that? And it would say, oh, well, I did this thing here. I'll fix this for you. And I was like, no, 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 no. I don't want you to fix the problem. I genuinely want to understand what it was, like what was the connection you made to create this response. And by asking that, I don't trust that it's completely right because it doesn't always know why it's made that decision, but it at least would give me ideas for what to follow up on and what to ask questions about. Okay. And then, so yeah, and so that's where I'm at right now, where when I work with an AI, it's all through a conversation. What I've learned is that as long as you can communicate your intentions clearly, as long as you can ask questions and call out the AI when it could be wrong, you can create like really incredible things with AI. I'm going to pause here before I jump into the specific projects that I've built, if there's any questions or comments. No. Okay. Kathy's shaking her head.
Yeah, okay, maybe I have a question.
Yeah.
You talk about like figuring out how to get something that's right. Maybe that's something we could talk about later because I think that's really interesting.
Mm,
For these times when you really care that the like it has to be accurate, like this question about how you get through with that. That's a
yeah.
question I have, but maybe we can talk about it more after we see some of the examples.
Yeah.
I was going to share we had another speaker yesterday, Daniel Whiteson, who's a physics professor, book author, podcaster, children's TV show creator around science. Eleanor Wonders Why is his TV
Wow.
show. And he was saying the same thing around writing for him because he thinks of like writing as thinking. It's like the extension of your own thinking. That for him, even though a lot of folks do try to use AI for writing as a writer, he's like, I just can't do it, asking for feedback, asking for edits, that kind of thing, but actually doing the writing. And especially we're talking about how to connect to people, how to like connect to faculty if you're interested in research. And that was another place where he was like, do not use AI tools to write your email. They all seem the same. Like, write your
Oh,
email to
yeah.
me, please.
Yeah.
And so it's interesting
Yeah.
say that too, because I know you're very pro using AI when it's helping with efficiency, when it's helping with helping make you go faster, do the thing you want to do, but also because you're so steeped in like creative work. These are your hand-drawn illustrations. You're writing, you're like kind of able to think about where it works and where it doesn't in a
Yeah.
very thoughtful way.
Yeah.
I see a
Yeah.
couple questions in here. Alyssa, do you want to kind of share?
Yes. Yeah. I can address them. First, though, to comment on what you're saying, Kathy,
Yeah, sure.
I'm trying to think. There were so many good things about what you said there. But yeah, exactly. Oh, I know, especially on this point of like people have seen it. I write about this actually I write about it in a post that I'll share briefly because I have an illustration on it. It's related to writing with AI. And it's this part in here. I talk about how when you are using AI as an individual person and you're having it write for you, it feels a little like, oh, it's not too different. Like it's not too different from how I would write. It's just kind of cleaning things up a little. But when you add up all together, everybody who's doing that, and the AI tends to have these patterns that it brings in, as humans, you notice it. You notice even when it's a very small difference, but it's happening everywhere. I know I feel it where I'm like, just my attention somehow is not being caught with this writing, and I can start to tell little ways, like little ticks that the AI has. Let me show this before I go to the questions. So this is an article that I wrote. I also do voiceovers for my posts. So if you prefer to listen and read, you can do that. But this is a little cartoon that I drew of like how it represents how I write with AI. So one is having it help me think of an examples. I call it a writing adjacent partner because it helps me do things like integrate ideas together. I think I have here, it's like a writing coach. It helps me with live edits. It helps me review notes. And then also in general, it's just a cheerleader. Sometimes when I'm writing and I'm about to post, I'm like, I don't know, is this any good? And they'll be like, Alyssa, you worked really hard on this. And then I'll say, oh, is there anything I'm missing? And it'll share information there. So that's one post that I wrote about writing with AI. All right, Dan. So my understanding is that you use AI more for brainstorming plus curated thoughts. I definitely use it a lot there, but I do a lot of building with AI as well. And that's actually all the projects that I'm going to show is how I've used Claude Code to build apps and websites, that type of thing. I actually have a framework for how to think about what it is that you create with AI. And there's different layers to it of like brainstorming and curation, which is huge. I think that's actually one of the biggest important ways you can use AI, but also things like how can you analyze data with it? How do you think about connecting systems together so that they can, you use MCPs and other ways to connect in to be able to do tasks and set them off on their own. And then like a layer I called engineering, which is how do you actually make systems that are like apps and production level systems that are safe and reliable. Um, so I kind of work across all of that space. Nick, let me see. Do you know about Palantir's ontology? I just saw Alex Karp talk about it this morning on CNBC. Is there a way to extend compaction summaries? That's where I need to correct the AI the most. I am not super familiar with those pieces. So I can't quite comment on it. It's funny, I literally threw your question into my Claude. But so I'll have to look more into it. But I don't know. It's interesting. I will look into it and think more about it. Dan, do you have skills or a site where we could look at? I am planning on publishing, I'm probably going to publish this so that you can actually see it. And it links out to all the different projects that I have here. But the other place is literally just going to my Substack where I publish about a lot of the projects that I write on. So here, I can actually share this with you here and a lot of my projects are on GitHub. So you can actually see the code, you can actually fork the repos, you can talk to your AI about it and like learn about it and see how you can pull it in for yourself. Is there an advantage for using different AI models, Claude Code, ChatGPT Codex for different tasks? Are there specific tasks where one model performs better than others? All right. The answer is yes and no. I'm going to give kind of the cop out answer, but I think is actually true, which is you just have to test it for yourself and see what works for you. But for me, I can talk a little bit about how I used to only use ChatGPT exclusively. I tend to be slow to actually adopt technology, even though I'm a technology person. So, like with AI coming on board, I was like, I don't know if I'm going to use it yet. And then once I do, I just use it exclusively. So I used ChatGPT for a long time. I finally started using Cursor for coding because my team kept pushing me to do it. It was okay. It was pretty cool that it could write code on its own. And then at the beginning of this year, I switched over to Claude Code and I love Claude Code. So Claude Code I use to write, code for me. I use it to analyze data. Claude, I use just to talk to it, have conversations, ask it questions. There will be times where I go back and forth, where I'll actually, and maybe, I'll talk about it in one of my examples here, is I'll prototype like an app, for example, in Claude with artifacts, and then I'll download that code and I'll give it to Claude Code to start to build out as an actual app.
Totally. Yeah.
Um,
Listen, I'm
yeah,
just going to interrupt you and say, I think since a lot of these questions are about kind of more general, like tell us about these things. Yeah, exactly. Code. Maybe let's see some of the projects. Let's get into
yeah,
some of the projects, and then we'll keep some of these. Like, come back to this question about like
yes,
why Cloud or why Cloud Code. What about coding, owning 100% of the code? Great question. But maybe let's show some more
yeah. Let's do
work.
it through the examples. That's
I think
great.
that's going to answer some questions and bring up some other ones and make sure that we can get into all of it. Yeah.
Fantastic. All right. Yes. Thank you, Kathy. All right. So this is just a sample of the different projects that I've created. A lot of these, I think every single one of these, except for the website demo and the superhero math game, are actually available. Like you can go to these links. Let me come back because I have an order that I wanted to go through with this. Okay. The first one I'm going to show you is something called First Replies. I'm going to introduce it first and then I'll show it to you. So basically, in my newsletter, I had hit 500 subscribers around May, and I like to really celebrate my subscribers and my relationships with people. So the way I decided to do that was I created a dashboard of the subscriber growth. But then it's a little jumpy because I think it's of the screen share. But then I had these bouncing bubbles that represented every person who's commented on me. And the first time we talked together, the bigger the bubble, sort of the bigger the relationship. And then, like I said, I do drawings, and I'm known for my oranges that represent me as a human and all of us as humans talking to the robots. I also added in here, if you click on them, they'll multiply. It's like such a silly little thing, but it is so amazing. I just started with this graph. I think this was in Claude Code. And then I just have ideas. And I'm like, hey, Claude Code, can you add this thing? Hey, Claude Code, can you add that thing? And then there's like, that's when there's the iteration piece that comes out. But have them jump higher. Like, oh, the bubbles are like going over the side. Can you fix that for me? Can you add all of the people who have commented and the first time they did? So this was just a super fun project. I like to have fun and I like to be silly. And so being able to take something that's normally just like very dry, like data, I love data too, but like really put some fun into it and have it be so easy to do with AI is incredible. So, and then this one, do I actually have it? This one connects to my Substack. I don't think I have it connect into the GitHub repo, but I think if you were to Google like Alyssa Fu Ward GitHub first replies, you could see that. So that's one example of something I've built. The next thing, and this actually gets at, I think, Dan, your question, that framework that I mentioned. I built an assessment for it uh, on how you can actually see. So this is a little bit small, but basically see where am I at currently in my AI skills? Where do I want to go, and how do I get there? The acronym, the name of this is Human Centered AI Capability. The acronym used to be HCAIC, but that was hard to say. Now I've changed it to HART, which is Human Centered AI Readiness and Transformation. And I'm a very like heart centered, gut focused person as well as like head and data. So that just like was a perfect name for me. But in here, for example, this framework basically looks at what are the outcomes you want AI to do. Do you want to just explore with it? Do you want it to have it do a task for you? Do you want to actually collaborate with it where you go back and forth and it's really human plus AI, or do you want it to automate something for you? And then as a human, the skills that I've split up are articulation. How do you talk to the AI? And I purposely chose this word instead of communication because I wanted to convey the direction. So the source comes from you, and then you are saying that to an AI. You are figuring out how to articulate it to an AI. How to use data. So, like, basically, what are your inputs and outputs when you're working with an AI? How do you provide it good context, both structured and unstructured? The systems piece. So, like I mentioned before, how do you connect it together with Google Drive and oh gosh, I connect to so many things that I'm completely blanking now. Different data systems, like I said, your email, Notion, just all kinds of different pieces. How do you get the AI to work together with other systems that exist? And then the engineering piece. How do you actually make what you create safe, reliable, production ready? And then the beauty of this is you can cross it together. I'm a scientist. I love things when you can cross the dimensions together and see how they work together and differently. And then each of these you can click in and evaluate yourself for how am I today? How often do I do it? How comfortable am I with it? A little reflection. And then where do I want to be in the future? And you can rate yourself there. It'll show a little piece, little like bars here, save responses. And then at the end, you can create your summary and it'll show you where you are on the grid. So the reason why I like this is because it says you don't have to know everything about everything in AI. It might be that you're like, I'm mostly in this space and I want to be more in this space where I automate things, but I don't really need to do the engineering thing. I have people to help me with that. And so it's a really nice way to just clearly say where you are and where you want to go. Because with AI, there's so many different ways that you can think about it. I see people talk past each other all the time when we're like, we need to get more people to use AI. It's like, what do you mean by that? Um, I created all of this in Lovable. So if you know what Lovable is, or if you don't, it is a vibe coding platform where you can create apps. And this is truly like you go in and talk to it in a chat box and it'll just create the thing for you. Claude Code is a version of that, but it's a lot more in the like you're more exposed directly to the code. Oh, so actually, Miri, this gets at your question on like which one to use when. Lovable like takes care of so much more for you, but it also sometimes if it's not doing what you want, it's harder to like get under the hood and fix things up. What I did here is it's still hosted on Lovable, but the code gets saved off into GitHub. which is a platform for where you can track your code changes. I downloaded that and I give it to Claude Code, and then now I can work on it in Claude Code.
Yeah, and Alyssa, I'll just shout out. Replit was a sponsor for this session, and so Replit also has
Oh,
a tool that has similar to Lovable. I think I don't know if you use Replit,
yes.
but
Yeah,
Replit.
yeah, I have. Yeah. Yeah, Replit is very similar. Right, exactly. We use Replit at work and we use it a lot to create dashboards, but it also can be used to create things like this. Yeah,
Yep. And so if
absolutely.
folks are here and they missed last week on Friday, Brandon Middleton from Replit gave some a tutorial on their tools and workshops. So that's in the video library if folks are interested in seeing more about that.
Yep. Cool. All right, I have two more lovable apps that I want to demonstrate. One of them is because when I used Lovable and I found it so easy, I actually asked my 8-year-old daughter if she wanted to create an app, and she did. So this is what her app looked like. We created a game. And what I had her do, so again, this is an example of how you can use AIs together, is we started in Claude and I had her have a chat with Claude. And I told Claude, Claude, you're going to be talking to my 8-year-old daughter. Make sure you're appropriate. I didn't think it wouldn't be because I'm not inappropriate with my AI, so I wouldn't expect it to be, but I just wanted to make sure it quote unquote knew that. My note here is I don't expect that to be like an ironclad now Claude will never be inappropriate with my child, but more just like as a way to prompt it that, there's a channel, there's a direction of how I want you to talk to this person to pay attention to. So it knew it was talking to my child, and it adjusted how it talked. It also did a lot more like choose from these options type thing, and then like let her respond. This is a post. Actually, you know what? I wrote a post on this experience as well. So if you want to see more details on what it was like for my daughter to create this, you can check that out here. So this is an app. I just have to demonstrate this because it was so fun. She loves the game 2048, which is where you combine numbers together to make bigger numbers. And then she created a magical creatures version of this. So you combine eggs to make stars, to make butterflies. And one of the fun things to do with AI was just figuring out what this progression should be and then like how to set it up. It got the arrows wrong. So she had to tell it how to fix the arrows. Like it chose, I think, to make this background. This is what I think is so fun. AI will just make decisions. Sometimes it's annoying because you're like, why did you do that? Don't want you to do that. But other times it makes really cool decisions. I'm like, awesome. I'm going to keep that sky with the moving clouds. My husband created through Lovable. Oh no, this wasn't through Lovable. He created something else through Lovable. This one he created through Claude in 6 prompts. This is basically a Rubik's Cube timer. My daughter and I also do Rubik's Cubes. I literally have 3 Rubik's Cubes around me right now on my desk. We track our times and try to get better at them. That's really fun. This is also literally, it's online. If you want to track your Rubik's Cubes times, you can go there. Let me see what's next. Okay. One of the other projects I worked on recently. Okay, so here's me building by myself, right? And then I'm also watching a lot of other people build. And like I said, I don't think you need technical experience to build technical products. That being said, it's also really helpful to know some technical best practices to be able to make sure you're building safely, reliably, you don't lose all your code if your AI goes rogue. And what I think is really cool is you can learn about all that stuff with your AI, but it's easier if you know the right questions to ask, and it's easy if you have a human expert involved in the mix to help guide you. I'm a teacher at HART, and so I built an open source project to help anyone learn how to build with AI. And so this is called Open Room. The way that it works is it's kind of like a social media type space. The idea is that you can build your own room within this. And the way it works is that you reserve a space that then creates a ticket in GitHub. And then you can basically give the GitHub URL. It'll share it here. Oh, somebody else has done that one. It'll share a GitHub URL. You share the GitHub URL to your Claude code or any AI, actually. You can even do this with Claude. And you say, hey, help me build my room. And then I programmed it, or like I trained it. I created a skill within that repo to have it walk the user through a build process. But basically, what it does is like you as a person don't need to really know how to use GitHub yet. You just need to be able to talk to an AI and answer its questions, and it'll walk you through an entire build process to then actually push this live into the site. So I won't go through that in detail here, but I'll just show you first what that looks like as a product. So the first task is usually just add a background image to your room, and then you can do things like add hover spots or hotspots to then take you to other rooms. You can go out to other places. Um, I have this grand idea of like actually building this up and people can visit each other's rooms and put stuff in each other's rooms. A lot of people have done just like really fun, creative things. Like this person has made it so that it goes to her own app, which is related to meditation of some sort. Um, yeah, so this is something that I built. It's very simple, but it's something that now everybody, anybody could contribute to. If you wanted to do it, you could absolutely do it if you're interested. So here, I'll share actually this too. You can also even just share this link to your Claude or Claude Code and be like, what's going on in this thing? Can you help me figure it out? Can you help me contribute to it? And it'll walk you through it. Let me see. So again, yeah, so I built that one with Claude Code. I connected it to GitHub. I also hosted it on Vercel. So if you want to make an app live, you have to host it somewhere. So I mentioned before that I've used GitHub to host apps. Here I'm using something called Vercel, which is a very popular one among AI vibe coders.
Yes.
I
And
think you're allowed a couple of, yeah,
and Vercel also, I think, is up for sponsoring some folks to have more access to their tools. And so if Vercel is something that folks in this room or who are watching the recording are looking into, get in touch with me or somebody else on the team and say, I'm interested in Vercel. We don't have a code for them yet, but if we have enough interest, we can make something happen. So let me know.
that's awesome. That's really awesome. I suggest you take advantage of that. Yes, Dan Supabase. Thank you. I was going to mention that next. But first on Vercel, uh, it was very easy to set up. So I don't enjoy doing IT tech setup stuff because I feel like it always goes wrong. But by using an AI, I can be like, all right, help me set this up. Great, Vercel. Okay, now help me. Like, what do I do in Vercel? And then there's actually ways that you can connect your AI with Vercel where it'll then run commands as well. And then Dan, yes, Supabase. So for people who don't know, Supabase is a database management type product. It probably does a lot more things. That's what I use it for. So databases let you save off data and then you can connect it into your site. For this project, I'm only literally using Supabase to track the grids. Everything else is actually saved directly in the GitHub repo. Someday that'll change. But yeah, this app is also connected to Supabase. That's something, again, you can just talk to your AI and be like, hey, they mentioned Supabase. What's this all about? How do I use it? They have pretty good free tier options. I think you can do 2 projects. Um, so that's Open Room. Okay, so the other thing is I've now packaged up Open Room into a community that I host through Substack. So I wanted to be able to have a way for people to regularly learn how to build with AI together. So I created something called the HART Studio, which is where we meet bi-weekly to do live build sessions online through Zoom. And I have a whole workflow where, again, if people have never touched Claude Code before, if they've never touched GitHub before, I have a whole like onboarding process to help you get set up, to help you start to use it, basically work with an open room to go through that process, and then how to set up your own projects after that. One thing I did again with Claude Code is I created a member portal. So I've never done this before. This is really amazing and this is really fun. It's like super, super simple because of course I literally just set this up like 2 weeks ago and I did it pretty quickly. But my version of working is very iterative. So start with the minimum viable product and slowly build it up over time. But all I wanted to be able to do was give people a way to watch recordings. So if you're interested, you can check this out. Um, I also have a newsletter that's attached to it. So it says welcome. I've done videos for it. And then I created this member portal, and this was so cool. This is actually something I set up through Supabase. So Supabase lets you do authentications. So like once you have the person's email address, it'll like set up so that it sends them a magic link and then they can just get in. So I don't need to store passwords. I just need to be able to make sure they're connected in that they can see it. Um, Nick, if the data doesn't need to be private in a public repo and Supabase does cost money, consider using a YAML file to track data. Yeah, that's a really good point. And I have examples of that too in GitHub. So I think like the day first replies, the data is actually saved in GitHub, possibly through a YAML file, mostly because all of that's publicly shared anyway within the app. Um, the other thing though to just keep in mind is that not to Be mindful of what data you're storing in GitHub and what format it's in. I've done this before as like a younger data scientist where I've like uploaded CSVs and stuff into GitHub. Beyond the fact that there's like a security thing you need to keep in mind because of how it tracks files, it can just like blow up your repo. So that's definitely a good tip to look into. All right, let's see here. That is the HART Studio. Ooh, okay. One more demo, and then I'm going to go into actually how I created some of these things. This I thought was the coolest thing. So I've been working on creating my website. This you can't go to, it'll be gated behind a password thing. But I wanted to be able to create an interactive or like an animated website. So this stuff was kind of pretty straightforward. I had an image that I broke up, I gave it to Claude Code. Oh, this is an example where I prototyped it first in Claude. So then, because it was just faster to do, it was easier to see it show up in the artifact. Again, I'll show you an example of that in my next example. And then I downloaded the HTML, I put it into Claude Code, and then iterated from there. The thing that I think is so cool about this, other than that I think the animation is kind of fun, is the images all come in separately, and Claude just kind of placed it where it thought it could go. And I wanted to move it around, obviously, like I want it to be kind of integrated. Initially, I was just telling it, like, hey, move the robot down a little bit and to the right. I've tried things where like I've had it set up a grid that's like hidden, but you can turn it on as an editor, and then I'd give it the coordinates. That's actually, let me see that. Oh, yeah, that's actually in here. So like I think, do I have it? Hang on, I can't see. Nope, never mind. I don't think. Oh yeah, here. Hang on. Oh my gosh. Wow. Sorry, hang on just a minute. Okay, there we go. So this is the one thing I had done where I had created a grid and then I would tell Claude Code like, okay, at 20 and 5 with the like length of, 20, like put that spot there. That still takes a fair amount of work. So what I did is I told Claude, all right, Claude Code, can you just like make an interactive layout tool for me where I can just move stuff around and then I can give you the coordinates and you'll save it? So it did that. So now like I have the palette here and I can literally just like move stuff around where I want it. This one's actually already where I want it to be. But yeah, I could move that around. And then this version, I had to copy the JSON and give it directly to Claude Code. But now I think I have a version where I just say save. And then it'll automatically make the changes in the code. And then it's like ready to push through and make live in the site. This was amazing to me, like truly amazing, because as a person, like I could never have coded this up on my own. And if I did, it would have taken a very long time. Like this took not even 5 minutes, I think, to tell it. And there were a couple iterations I had to do, but it was just so fast. It really blows my mind still, even having used and use AI every day in and out.
Yeah, Alyssa, I just want to jump in. I think that's a great example of something where um, you're not using private or sensitive data. The thing you're creating is something for yourself that you're going to enjoy, and the process is the piece that you're getting help with here. About like, okay, I know, kind of know what I want to do, and it's like, could there be errors in the code or something about? It's like, I guess so, but the thing you're doing what you care about is the actual action, the output, and so it's a great example where the 5 minutes that I mean, all the time that you put in ahead of time to learn how to use the tools, but then the 5 minutes that you put in to say, like, oh, I have an idea. I want to just be able to move the stuff around. Can I make that happen? And then when it does happen, it's really meaningful in terms of your time and the output. It's a
Yeah,
great example.
yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. One thing you said made me think of a point around like how much do you care about the code underneath? And actually, maybe this, Dan, gets back to your question around university
Yeah,
professors.
I think it's really hard,
Yeah,
especially for some. I'm like a little bit of a black and white thinker, and so I think I'm like either the code is good or it's bad or something, and it's like I should use AI or I shouldn't. And so I think for me, this kind of like, okay, you're not making this part of this tool public. It's not going into a public repository. It's not part of a business's code to make websites. The stakes are pretty low. So it doesn't have to be like the best code in the world to do this piece of moving stuff around,
yeah,
right?
yeah, yeah.
I think that,
Yeah, I have this thing. I came up with this last week because I was doing a presentation at work, but and it has roots in insight actually. But validate validate the output of the AI proportional to the impact of a wrong decision. So meaning like, and I think actually, Kathy, this came from Mode, the CEO of Mode. Do you remember this? He used to talk about how like they'd always predict what they thought would happen, and then they'd like calibrate how good they were at predictions. And the idea was like, if I'm like 100% certain this is going to work, great, ship it. But if I'm like 20% certain it's going to work, like then the next question is it going to take down the company if it's wrong? And if so, you better work on it to get that percentage up.
yeah,
Or if it's like, no, but the learning will be great, then like, great, test it out.
yeah, Derek Steer maybe is a
Yeah, yeah,
mode,
yeah. Derek Steer. That's
mode
right.
analytics. Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah.
That's great. It's like one thing from that one talk that you can still remember,
I
right?
know. Yeah, I remember because it was a meetup and I literally can picture myself sitting in that room watching him present on this and being like, that is the coolest idea and I'm gonna use that. Um, so exactly like this, all I need to do is like get the AI to create something that I can use to give back to it to create the site. When it comes to creating a product for your business, then you do need to pay a lot more attention to what's happening under the hood. Um, yeah, and I think there's just so many different ways to go about how you want to manage that process. I think that people, I know I feel this way, get really hung up on like, is this right or not, versus what is the actual impact of the decision I'm making to do this. So that's something I think about. Anusha, how do you truly learn as you go? I know you experiment a bit, but if you're relying on learning through building experience, and how do you know about different existing apps or efficient methods coming out with what? I love how you have creativity within your builds. It's hard to make layouts. How do you realize the different? Okay. Oh my gosh. Well, Anusha, first, feel free to read my Step Up, Step Together because I talk about all of this all the time. I'm constantly thinking about how do people learn? How do you manage the sort of onslaught of new tools all the time? This isn't exactly what you're asking there, but one thing is I don't. I mean, I don't in the sense that I recognize there's pressure to learn it. Um, I sort of practice, this is getting a little bit out there, but like I practice a lot of mindfulness and like being present focused, where like when I'm sitting in front of the computer, I try to just pay attention to like, what is the one thing I want to do right now? I can't do anything about the fact that you know, I don't know, that there's a new tool that's come out. And honestly, I sort of work with what's happening with me in the moment and like what I'm interested in and what I want to accomplish there. And if it's like good enough, then I'm happy with that and I move on. I will share I was not always this way. I have had very perfectionist tendencies and I've spent a lot of time and effort doing diving really deep into things because I thought I needed to. And I just don't work that way anymore. So the short answer is really just I sort of just follow my feet. I mean, my a publication is called Step Up, Step Together. Like I think a lot about just like putting one foot in front of the other and like just testing something here. I do focus on like making sure I get to a point where it's kind of completed so that I don't feel like I have all these different things hanging. But that's a great segue because I'm going to actually show you how I talk to an AI and how I build up a project through a chat. This is how I talk to my AI. Let me come up to the very beginning. And this will actually even give you the context because this is how I give context to my AI. So, like I said, I'm on Substack. There was this conversation that came out where this woman was basically saying it was an article about parenting, actually, that I contributed to on like, how do you think about being a parent and working with AI? Within the comment thread, a woman commented where she said, like, she has a son who hates AI and is very bad at math and like not doing well at math in school. And she was thinking about creating an AI app to like help him learn. And I was immediately taken by this idea. And I was like, can I like explore this idea and like test around creating something? Because I asked her, you know, like, how much do you know what to do? Like, do you have experience with this? She's like, I have no idea where to start. I was like, okay, well, I have an idea of what I want to try. Can I do this and send it to you? And she was open to it. So the way I did this with the AI is I literally just gave it the link and I said, can you see this? This actually gets at the question like Kathy, you were saying about validating. I am constantly asking the AI, do you see this? What do you see about it? Like, I'm just always checking, like, I don't want to assume anything. It should see it. But also, there's been enough times where it hasn't been able to see the link. And then it's like, I can't see the link. So let me just make up stuff for you of what I think this link is. And then I'm like, no, 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 no. Don't do that. And then I find other ways to give it the information. Oh, this actually happened here. Look at that. It said I can't access it. So then I just took screenshots of the conversation and I shared it with it directly. Didn't worry about it doing weird formatting things. Also shared my conversation with her. And then I basically was just like, what kind of game can you make? So I didn't repeat all the things we'd already said in the conversation. I just wanted to, just kind of keep moving on. So it gave a little summary, which is great because then I know it works, like that it read the conversation well enough. The kid has ADHD, so that was something I wanted to think about in the project. I just looked at the time, we have 6 minutes. So, okay, so I'll go through this pretty quick. And it sort of suggested this a comic book math battle game. Are you thinking of sharing it? Blah, blah, blah. So I said, yeah, go ahead. I want you to make a first draft. I really just like to let it loose. One thing I learned, because in my early days, that March 2025, when I was working with the I was doing a lot of instruction creating. I was telling it everything. And then I'd be like, why are you hallucinating here? Great. You were using your memory. Don't use your memory. Why were you hallucinating now? Okay, you were doing this. Don't do this. And I just noticed there was a point of that diminishing returns. Now we know like context is there's too much information, blah, blah, blah. Now my method is actually pretty, not always, it depends on the project, but pretty loose where like I want to see what the AI is going to create without like human intervention in some ways to start. And then I'll build from there instead of trying to predict what it's going to do. So I said to go ahead with a first draft. It created this. I was like, that looks great, but I want you to create it as an artifact. So then it did it again. And then here, so if you ask it to create a separate artifact, it'll create it in this window. You can literally just, let's see, will this work? Oh, okay, 5 quarters. So yeah, so that's like an optimization maybe that I could do. But if you give it, like you can actually interact with it in the window here. Again, I'm watching the time, so I'm going to kind of keep moving on. It suggested something. I was like, maybe, sure. And then actually it started working on it. I was like, never mind. And I had it stop. And I was like, actually start with the simpler one. Also, I told it I couldn't type in this thing, so fix it. So then we kind of went back and forth and it like kept updating this particular file. I told it information about the font sizes. Okay. And then I like to save off versions and then do a new version. So now I wanted to try one where like the AI actually, I think it gave this suggestion where the AI actually reads the response and responds. The other thing I did here, so yeah, I'm just saying, yeah. I gave it feedback that the answer it gave was too long and boring. The responses it was giving was like wrong, really angry. And I was just like, I don't think, especially for people with ADHD, they tend to have high rejection sensitivity. So I was like, I don't think they're going to respond well to that. And it responded well. It gave suggestions I thought were good. And then I gave it some feedback on like what I think it should do instead. Give it an option to select the answer as a mode, multiple choice. Let me show you what this looks like. Oh yeah, I gave it suggestions about the characters moving around and interacting with each other. This is what it looks like. I thought this was so fun. But you can see like in my prompts, I mean, so simple. I don't want to work that hard. And because the thing is, once it creates a thing, I have a lot of thoughts about what I want it to do. And then I give it that feedback. Here's the little characters moving back and forth. Um, and then when you give it the right answer, it'll take down the HP. If it's wrong, let's give it a wrong answer. Then it actually calls the API, AI API, only within this window. And then it'll explain why it wasn't, like why it was wrong or not. Um, this right now is only hosted in here. So this is one of those things where like at this point, if I really like it, I talk so casually with this thing, giving it feedback. And then like, let's say I want to actually create this as an app, which I sort of do. I would then come up here. Let me look at my window. You can actually just copy straight the HTML or you can download it as an HTML. And then I would give it to my Claude. I would point my Claude Code to that file. I'd have Claude Code first recreate it. And then I would start to iterate on it with Claude Code, eventually put it up on Vercel or Cloudflare is the one I'm using more recently. And then host it, make it available. That is basically the things that I wanted to walk you through, and we are at 2 minutes. So, Kathy, how would you like to wrap?
Yes, thank you so much, Alyssa. Let's see. Have any other quick questions? Anybody have any other quick questions? I'm already getting some DMs about Vercel, so thank you. That's great. Some just in general, some folks want to help support this program. It's been really great. Every time DJ talks about it anywhere, people are like, what can we do to help? And so getting more resources is definitely something we're happy to help do. And it's why I thought of Alyssa, bringing Alyssa here today, just reading questions people have on our Discord and surveys, thinking about like, I just don't know where to get started. So I want to thank you, Alyssa, for coming today, sharing all these different kinds of projects. I think when you see like that math game, for example, and you see, okay, what was the process behind making something like this? It can feel daunting, I think, to get started, especially for folks who have only used some of the chat-based tools for more like Q&A, seeing more about the building side, making a game, making a website, using something like Replit or Lovable or, for Sell. It's great. So,
Yeah.
yeah, Dan has one.
Yeah. So, yeah, I have two comments. Maybe one slightly answers Dan's is whenever nowadays, anytime I have a question where I'm like, I wonder how to do this, or like it'll say something and I'll be like, how do I fix that? I literally just throw it into the AI now. Um, and people could think like I'm outsourcing my creative thinking, critical thinking to an AI, maybe. But I feel like there's so much more for critical thinking now that's going into just like, is this correct? Is this what I want it to be? Like, it's almost like the critical thinking is what's the question that I want to ask? And then I'll just ask the AI that thing. I mean, I'm a big thinker in general. You sort of can't stop me from that, but like that skill is one I'm using all the time. But there's definitely so many things that I used to feel like I had to figure out on my own that now I just throw it in the AI. So, for example, Dan, actually, your question, that's something I would throw into an AI and be like, what do you suggest? Should I throw this into an AI or into a separate chat? And sometimes it'll suggest it. It'll be like, your window's too long now. Yeah, you should, like, I'll help you summarize this, put in a new chat. And sometimes they'll be like, no, you're fine.
Yeah,
I'll keep
and
talking
tools
about
are
it
going to
here.
improve with that. If it's truly better to start a different one or keep it in the same one or whatever, that's going to be something that'll improve too. So, how do you
Yeah.
get better at asking the right questions? It's a great question. I think it's just practice. I don't know, Alyssa, do you have?
Yeah. No, it's the same thing, Anusha. Like I think the and I know we're at time, but the barrier to like working with this thing is so low. You can literally ask you that question. How do I get better at asking you the right questions? And then the other thing is just ask it a question. Don't worry about it being perfect because the thing is the output that you get will help direct you to what to do better. That is actually a tip is that if you're not getting the answer you want from the AI, ask it like, how do I get you to give me a better answer? What do I need to say differently? Where are you getting confused? What words am I saying that are making you give me this response? So those are actual, I mean, those are real tips that you can use. But the point is like the AI will respond to you. So whatever question you have, just ask it to the AI and it will and have that back and forth conversation with it.
Yeah,
That's
but
how
then
you'll
you
get better
have
with
some
it.
of your own metrics on the outcomes, which is like how much time am I spending on this? Am I getting it? Do I feel good when I'm doing it this way? Do I feel like I'm making progress on what I want to do? Or do I feel like I'm missing out on something? If I'm trying to figure out what to make for dinner, should I ask Claude or should I maybe
Yeah.
ask people who live in my house? Which one feels better to me? Like there
And the
are
thing is, you can do both.
can do
I do
both.
both.
Yeah, you can do both. Or if you're like, that's not for me, you can not do that.
Yeah.
So it's like the outcomes are like, what are you trying to do? There's the outcomes and the process. And like you have your own internal measure of like, are these outcomes the outcomes I want to see when I'm working with different tools? Am I getting to the outcomes faster? Am I able to make this web page or make this game? Or do I like the outcomes? Do they feel still like me? And is this process working for me? Is it taking too long? Is it too hard? Is it feeling like I'm missing out on something? And so you kind of have to have your own judgment about that, right?
Yeah. 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 Absolutely.
How it
It really
works.
comes down to you and how you're feeling when you're working with the AI.
Yeah. Yeah. Great. Okay. Well, thank you again so much, Alyssa. Thanks everybody who's here for your questions and for being here. And we really appreciate having you with us. So thank you, Alyssa.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Everybody have a good rest of your day. So, yeah.
Bye.